Comrades, thank you very much for inviting me back. I came 2 years ago and I was inspired by the Chainmakers demonstration. I couldn't come last year because I was in hospital, but I had this invitation over a year ago, and I tell you what an event like this does for me is what matters, because you realise looking round that we're in the presence of the people who have got the power to change the world and have done so in the past, and that's what the Chainmakers strike was about. It was a fantastic battle. Women trainmakers getting starvation wages, no minimum wage, and Mary MacArthur led them in this historic strike, and they won support from across the whole labour movement, and they won. And that's what's important, that we are here to celebrate their event. And of course this idea that women are the weaker sex, anyone who knows anything about the labour movement will know that's a complete lie. I mean, during the miners' strike, it was the women's support groups who kept the miners going. And in Liverpool, when there was a big dock strike, they had women of the waterfront, and they supported the dock workers. And I remember the leader of the Liverpool dock workers coming down to Chesterfield, where I was the MP, and he said, he came to support the miners, and he said, "What's the difference between a Liverpool woman and a terrorist?" And everyone was wondering what he meant, and then he said you could negotiate with a terrorist. And I thought that just about summed it up. But the other thing about the strike was the extent to which it won the support of the labour movement across the whole country. And solidarity is the key to all our efforts. By ourselves alone we can't do very much. Together in the trade union movement and with our comrades we can achieve things if we practice solidarity. During miners' strike, I remember some American trade unions came over to support the British miners, and one of them told a very good story to illustrate the meaning of solidarity. He said there was a pit village in America where the pit was closed, and a little boy fell down the pit shaft. And so all the old men gathered round and they dropped a rope, and the little boy called up, "It's too short." They dropped another rope, and it still wasn't long enough. And they dropped a third rope, and still the little boy couldn't get it. And then out of the pit shaft came the little boy's voice. He said, "Tie your ropes together." And that's what solidarity is about. If you work with other people, if you support each other, then indeed there's nothing you can't achieve. And of course, for me at any rate, and I'm sure for many of you here, what's important about this demonstration today is that 100 years after the Chainmakers took a stand, we are now faced with a major attack, not just upon pensions and living standards and jobs, but upon the whole idea of a civilized society. And what we have to do is to use now the skills we learned from the past in order to see that these cuts are not carried through. The most powerful word in the political vocabulary is very simple. It's no. We won't accept it. And if you say no loudly enough, then the guys at the top tremble because they haven't got the capacity to cope with a determined nation that will not go along with what they want. And here we have this massive program of cuts, which is in a way another attack upon the universal suffrage, because the reason men wanted the vote was so they could vote for the National Health Service, vote for public services, vote for benefits, vote for all sorts of things that the government now wants to destroy. So we have to bring together every spirit, from the Tolpuddle martyrs right through the miners, the Chainmakers, bring those memories together and use them to see that we do not accept what the government are trying to do. And that means a resistance across the whole country, not just the trade unions but also the community groups, because the trade union movement are the largest voluntary organisation in the country, and they speak for people who are not trade unionists but depend upon what the trade unions do. And if we make our approach to this crisis in that way, then I think in 100 years' time they'll be gathering to remember the great struggle against the cuts of 2010. And that's what we are here to do, and I wish you all good care. Thank you very much.